Hey there, Goa fans. This is Mark, DJ Solitaire here with episode 106 of Retro Goa Explorations, my weekly series in which I share in every episode one of my favorite tracks from the 1990s Goa Trance psychedelic dance movement. And this one is one of those tracks that just, I think, captures so much of the uplifting, effervescent, completely wild ecstatic energy of the scene as well as the beauty. And for me, it really crystallizes the sound of a certain period in 1997 when I first got it. And it's been a favorite ever since. Now, the timeline is a little bit fuzzy. I'm featuring it in the autumn 97 to summer 98 period because I know for sure that I had my hands on it during this period. I'm pretty sure I might have heard it earlier, possibly just later in the summer, around August 97. I didn't go through my dates. I have all of my dates organized from that period sequentially. So that's actually like March 1, like first dat from March 97, March 2, 97, April 97, and so on and so forth. So, eventually going down to storage, I could find out exactly when I got this. But one of the other fun things about this track is it suffered from a little bit of a mislabeling, which was very common for multiple reasons back then. Couldn't read people's handwriting. People didn't speak English properly. People were sort of a little so chilled that they didn't know what they were writing down or whatever, the sort of combination thereof. So this one was ostensibly by Transwave. The title was Transwave 59. That's the way it showed up for me. It turns out the project name was Quid, code S9. Now, 59 S9 kind of makes sense. Transwave, I mean, you listen to it, it's got all the hallmarks of it, but of course, because it was written by Dado. And the plot thickens. It was actually originally released as a Cypher-O track, which is another Dado project. So this is interesting. So there's a little bit of background into the story of how it came about. But for me, when I got it, what I loved was with 59, I was always interested in the story, the titles and, sort of the story aspect. And for me, 59 felt like, that last second before 60, before the clock changes and the minute changes. And it was kind of, we always felt back in the day, we were on the edge of this wave of the evolution of this music and of infinity, our current experience of the present moment, and as we were heading towards 2000, there was really this sense of, moving towards the future and being on the edge of time. And which, can also be a very psychedelic state of being. And so for me, 59 was that clicking of the ticking of the clock, rather. And, that yeah, that change from 1 minute to the next, from 1 second to the next, and how things change, um, just in a second. So it was kind of cool. So I still love the name 59, but that's not the official name. But let's take a look at some recollections that Dado shared. When on Dat Records we issued an alternate mix of this, and I'll tell the story if I remember later on in the video about how the alternate mix showed up. Code S9 was one of my first solo works before I even thought I could have a solo career as Deedrah. It's also inspiring for those of us who might be doubting things, considering how successful he still is 25 years later, clarifying that although JC Morin was our friend and was a partner in my first label, Records, he never was a musician or touched anything, and I don't remember how he ended up credited for Code S9 or other Cypher tracks. Well, yes. So quite often, people who worked on the track were uncredited. See the Mandala Utopia from a couple of episodes ago. And quite often, folks who maybe only provided atmospheric support, if that, in the studio, ended up credited. The title Dado adds means nothing in particular. It's just a silly name I wrote down quickly at the end of the session on Cubase. The project name was also just a silly name, as Quid in Latin was kind of mysterious. Now, the trance wave mix, I'll just mention this now since I've got the glasses on and the booklet in front of me. The trance wave mix was done with Christoph when we were doing 2 or 3 tracks a week. I think that we had to use another name, Quid, for some tracks because the trance wave name was used by Mitsuri and we didn't want any issue. I think at this point they also had it on Distance, right? Because I think their second album was on Distance, so that might be it. In any case, very common as we've seen, right? Total Eclipse releasing as The Antidote, Etnica Pleiadians, right? Nothing new here. The equipment used to make music back then was Ensoniq ASR10, Ensoniq ESQ-M, Roland Juno 106, Roland SH101, Kawai K3M, Roland Multi FX machine, and Atari 4, I'm assuming it's 4 megabytes, if it's 4 MBS. Really not an equipment guy, folks, with Cubase. So the original version was released as a Cypher-O track entitled Luis on a question mark vinyl in, it says here 1996, but according to Discogs, April 1997. And then, it was a decade later, then as Transwave on their Backfire CD in 2007. On Dado's DAT tapes, it was only named Quid S9. Okay, so short version. And so that's probably how, wrote down S9 and somebody looked at it and wrote down 59, and that's what ended up in my collection. So this was a real favorite at the time. Richard Purple had it before me, and possibly also in the Tufnell Park Trance Mafia in London at the time, the French chapter division headed by Emeric. I'm sure he had it also, and I don't think I got it until maybe August 97, but I suspect it might have been after that. I certainly don't remember playing it, not that it was playing out, but I don't remember actually really having it until later this year, that year, right in 97. And I certainly played it out that first party in Tokyo in May 98, the first one that I was playing at with the name Solitare. Now, I remember specifically this one, and this is why I think I didn't have it, because I didn't have Mandala Utopia at the time, and I didn't have this, I'm sure, because when Richard Purple and I were in Tokyo, and I've told this story before, how I played the night party, he played the morning party, we were wandering around Harajuku in Tokyo and ended up in the basement at some other party, and he was just asked to put on a couple of tracks. He did Mandala Utopia, and he did this one. And of course, the main DJ was completely melting down, and then we had to wrap things up. So I'm pretty sure I didn't have this at the time because it left me with that impression of, oh my God, these are the 2 greatest tracks ever. And it's definitely one of them. I mean, this is really, it captures all that completely unbridled enthusiasm, just the wild, ecstatic, exclamatory, celebratory, explosive energy, and that just, you can't go higher, you can't get higher than this. It's like, oh yes, you can. And it's so emotional and it's so beautiful and it just keeps going. So it's just got that wonderful blend of these qualities of, excitement, completely over the top, explosive energy, and beauty. So so I think it's probably time for us to listen to this. So really buckle your seatbelts, or really unbuckle your seatbelts and get your dancing shoes on, because this is really something. So we're going to listen to Quid, aka Cypher-O, aka Dado / Deedrah, code S9. Love this sort of synthesized voice, just this beautiful one-note chorus, cool little zap. And then this rhythmic chop of that voice, and then semitone higher, so from an F to an F sharp. Then with the kick. And just that tension of that minor second. And then this is just, as an introduction, it's over the top. Those other sounds starting to sneak in. The drum roll. That just the tension of that minor second that keeps playing out throughout this track. And that sheet metal kind of sound, which is really a trance wave and also the, you know, a Pleiadian's hallmark. Really important sound. And just the dancing between those two notes. Amazing. And so, you know, pretty straightforward, right? With just this dance back and forth between these two tonalities with these incredible sounds. And then a shift here. A little bit of upper rhythm there. And then that sort of distorted warehouse style kick. And then can't say needs more cowbell in this track. This is a little cosmic cowbell. Again, and also that interval, that slight dissonance from that over the main key. And then this. And I love the way this just starts coming more and more forward. Kick and everything else drops out. Kick starts coming back. And what is going on here? You get this on a big system, and I mean, this is just so completely explosive. Then it gets doubled up. Right, often a trance wave thing, right, where you get multiple synths playing the same thing. There's that wall of sound. There's that rhythm as well. Sort of quasi-industrial kind of hardness there. And then gorgeous. Great storytelling. And then a little bit of lightness. You need to catch your breath after all of those quantum waves from outer space. Then more of that woof, kind of industrial, zappy kick. And then yet again, I love the way that voice is, that chopped up voice is coming along with the waves on a lower frequency, right? And then way up there. And this bit here is brilliant. And again, just that, the tension, that alternating. And I love that, you know, that minor second is, again, it's like that 59 to 60, kind of like that split second. And now this is the catch your breath before the storm, because this is like a maelstrom. Then up an octave or two. Great key change. And then another one. It's like the whole cosmos coming together to celebrate. It just starts unwinding with this beautiful pattern. So it ends a little bit unresolved, but this is always going to be part of a bigger story, and that ending is a beautiful way to mix in with another track and either mixing on the harmonic level or however it is you're going to do that. I've done that a few different ways. But oh my goodness, that is I'm still sort of feels my cells and neurons tingling from that. I mean, it's just such an exciting and emotional track, and it just hits you on so many levels. And again, when the music was both beautiful and wild, right? Not just wild, not just crazy, and not just beautiful, but lacking sort of, maybe some power. I mean, it's got all of it. And the storytelling as well, the structure is fantastic with those creative breaks and the way, one voice comes in and then they double it and then you triple it. And it's just, at the end, it's just, where do you go from there? Which is the challenge for the DJ when you're playing this, because, what are you going to do? So the alternate mix, I just want to tie this in. So in the summer of 99, so after Solips, I was sort of hanging around Europe and went to Switzerland, visited a classical musician, and then that night went and played in a club in Zurich, saw The Matrix. That was really fun. And then ended up in Bordeaux visiting Stefan Holbeck, who had just moved back with Miyuki, aka Miyuket. So there's a track named that he wrote with her. And so it was in Bordeaux for maybe a week or so, and staying at his new place. They had just moved back from Japan, and I had just left Japan. So we went to the beach one day, and our chauffeur par excellence was Cedric, aka DJ Saidu. And he's a really good friend of Christophe from Transwave. And we're driving around in the car, and we're in this brand new car and driving through the French countryside with this unbelievable music playing. This is the first time I heard what was it, Wizzy Noise, This Is the End. And it was almost the end of me. I was just, what is going on? And then there's this alternate mix of, you know, 59 as I knew it, that was playing. I was like, what the heck is this? And there's very different instrumentation and kind of sort of really metallic sounds and so on and so forth. What is this? Um, and I could tell, and he had gotten it from Christoph. And, I wasn't in this, didn't have the relationship or whatever to say, I want this. Of course I wanted it. But, again, I also knew that, as I said back then, DJs had their collection. And of course we all sort of, I want this, I want that. But, that was part of the enjoyment was, knowing that stuff is out there. And we ended up, it was decades later when Dado loaned his DATs to our friend Kunal, and we found a pristine, master copy of it, and then we released it on Analog Visions. Great mix. I still prefer the original, largely because of emotional relationship. I think structurally it holds together a little bit better as well. I mean, they're both incredible. They'll both, rip the dance floor apart. But I think, for me, the ecstatic quality and storytelling of this original is just, it's unbeatable. It is, yeah, it really defines the optimism of a certain time in the scene. when we were still optimistic, if I dare say, even though I was starting to lose it in London because, um, it just wasn't the vibe. It wasn't this kind of vibe there somehow. The kind of vibe that was there in Tokyo and was in some places where, it was really from the heart and really, exploring and pushing the boundaries. So this is just a longtime favorite. Again, I'll normally call it 59, or I might call it Code 59, but S9, Code S9 is the original title. Masterful creation by Dado, Deedrah. If we want to, real name Frederic Kolishevsky, if I can actually pronounce that properly. Hats off, Maestro. Just such an incredible, incredible track. And we're going to listen to it now without my commentary. So I'm Mark, DJ Solitaire, signing off on episode 106 of DJ Solitaire's Retro Goa Explorations, and leaving you now with the complete track by Quid, Cypher-O, Deedrah, Dado, however we want to call them, Code S9.